thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. I think we'll just start off with a little bit of a quick chat about your time as a KTP Associate with Queen's University Belfast and the company FG Wilson. I'm really keen to hear about the project you were a part of.
So my KTP is probably one of those classic KTPs where I was at a transition from academia into industry. So I was finishing up my PhD at the time, and with all PhDs there's always further work and things you can do in further research, and I was fortunate enough to have a supportive both academic partner in Queen's University Belfast and the Aerospace and Mechanical Engineering Department, and also our industrial partner. And back in those days, my world was the world of numerical acoustics. So my background is mechanical engineering, and I think that was, they probably didn't have a department to put me in as a numerical acoustician, so they thought, okay, that's fluid, so let's put him in the aerospace department. So my background is actually in the research at that time was on boundary element methods. So that's essentially the emission of acoustics and the physics of acoustic propagation. So it was really to try to solve the challenge of characterization of complex noise sources. And at that time, FG Wilson's part of the Caterpillar group were making internal combustion engines that were driving alternators to make electricity, so generator sets. But one of the challenges they had was not just the emissions as we think about net zero today, but also the acoustic emissions. So they needed a better understanding of how their essentially the acoustic performance of their enclosures. And the first step of that is to understand what the source is and to characterize that and model that. And that was really the focus of my PhD. But the challenge from a KTP perspective, so that was what the research was about, but the challenge from a KTP perspective was really around how did they transfer that knowledge from the world of academia and very much an R&D type activity into their kind of core engineering groups. Like, how do we model things? And at that time, Caterpillar had invested heavily in that sector with respect to certification of their products. So they actually, at that time, I think it was the largest anechoic chamber in Europe they just commissioned. So we had those facilities as well as part of helping the research and the KTP as well. So yeah, it was a really nice opportunity to leverage some of those assets, not just on an IP perspective, but also the assets that the company had invested in. So yes, it was just kind of like a nice alignment of the stars.
Very nice analogy as well. How successful would you say the project was for yourself and the company?
It really was a great transition from academia to industry. It really, ticked all the boxes from a KTP perspective, from an associate perspective, and also the learning and development. And we'll touch on this probably a little bit more later with respect to what I achieved and how it kind of was a springboard for my career going forward. And then from the industrial partner perspective, I think it was beneficial because they were able to capture and essentially put the research into processes and systems from their perspective, from an NVH, noise, vibration and harshness perspective, and kind of transfer that knowledge into the business. So they didn't rely on a single academic. It was essentially the IP was then transferred into the business.
Very nice. It's really lovely to hear as well how much of sort of can be transferred from the KTP project and to the success of the company.
Yeah.
It really just shows that there's a really healthy partnership between the two.
Yeah.
And I think something that many people aren't aware of about the KTP programme is the incredible skills and personal development opportunities that you can gain as an associate.
KTP really is a fantastic modality for learning and development, and there's a lot of structured learning and a lot of options for that structured learning, but there's also unstructured learning and on the job learning as well. I think some of the things that I've taken away from it that have essentially been catalysts for learning and development cycles for me is in the kind of engineering domain. So I was able to achieve with my learning and development budget, I was able to spend that on a postgraduate diploma in noise and vibration control, and that really allowed me to be upskilled with respect to the application of some of the technologies that I was kind of developed as part of my research in a regulated domain. So I was more akin with all the regulatory space and things like that. And then the other aspect of it was the CMI. So there was a really strong relationship between the KTP program and CMI when I was involved in it, and I was able to go on to achieve my level 5 diploma in leadership and management. So those are two really big milestones for me, and they also allowed me then to be go on a pathway to become chartered both as an engineer and actually now I'm a fellow of the CMI. So that kind of kicked off a big kind of career-long journey on that aspect. So and those are two things that I always like to keep alive, the engineering and the application of technology, be it in acoustics, and I do other things now, but also the application with respect to leadership and management and the evolution of those methodologies and keeping abreast of that. On the unstructured part of it, it was really that transition from academia to industry. That was a huge shift, I think, for everybody, and and having that structured and unstructured approach, and really that being a key success metric of the KTP, and learning and development being really key as part of the whole program, really helped me put cognitive effort into making sure that was a success. So it really helped me, and it was a kind of springboard for other activities later on. And I kind of went through multiple cycles of that. So as I transitioned to different domains, I went back to some of the things that I learned as part of my KTP and apply those even to today, those mechanisms.
It's great to hear that the KTP, it's not just there when you're doing it, but just how much it's helping you in your career right now. But since completing your KTP, you have gone on to have some very exciting roles, including your current one as Head of Technology at Digital Catapult in Belfast. I'm super keen to hear more about that and the opportunities your KTP experience has led to in terms of career progression. So can you talk us through a bit of your career journey from university to where you are now, particularly if there are any highlights or indeed any challenges along the way?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm in a different chapter of my career than someone maybe in a KTP, so I'm further along the journey, and there has been a few milestones along the way and challenges as well to counterbalance that. I think that I look at it from transitions. So as I transitioned from the academia world into the industrial world, that was a great learning experience for me to understand what does good look like for industry with that commercial viewpoint. What are the metrics of success that aren't purely academic, and then actually it was kind of through a similar modality with respect to knowledge and the transfer of that knowledge and partnerships. So actually it was a partnership that I developed as part of my KTP that actually got me my next job. So I was using at that time a software that was called Sysnoise, and that was a spin out of KU Leuven in Belgium, a university just outside Brussels, and they had developed this boutique software solution for solving acoustic emissions, and I'd been using that through my academic PhD and the KTP, and I developed a really good working relationship with that development team, and they actually reached out and asked if I wanted to be a product manager for that software. At that point in time, I didn't know what a product manager was. I didn't think products needed managed. I thought, that's a strange role. So I flew over there and I met them, and actually the timing of it was quite nice, because I was able to round off the KTP, and it was coming to a close, and we'd achieved what we'd wanted to achieve broadly, and then essentially I was able to then take this next opportunity. So the timing of it was nicely bookended, and then that allowed me to essentially do another transfer of knowledge. So I was transferring my experience from the academic world and things that I knew about, also the industrial experience I had applying the technology that was really interesting for them, is like how do they take their solution and put it into the market. And then there was also the partnership side of things. So it was really, I developed a really good working relationship with that development team and even the broader LMS team. And in that period of time, another transition was that we were going from a really small spin-up or spin-out company, a really startup kind of scrappy culture. We're kind of just like kind of on hands-on developing things and things like that. And then within that first year, we got acquired by Siemens, and that was a huge change as a group. So we were going through a knowledge transfer partnership, just not as an associate then, we were going through a transfer as a group. And so I kind of was leaning into the experiences I'd had previously, and I was able to help them, the team, transfer and grow into that opportunity as well. So a lot of those unstructured approaches and even the learning structured from the CMI, the management leadership program, I was able to apply directly into that situation. And that went on to create lots of opportunities. Then I fortuitously became the product manager for lots of different parts of the code that Siemens had acquired at that time. So from Nastran, that came out of the Apollo program, from NASA for rotor dynamics and things like that. So we were involved with lots of different noise and vibration challenges, from the automotive to the aerospace, working with the likes of the European Space Agency or in the automotive industry, so lots of different opportunities. And that was a really exciting period of time, living in a foreign country, doing international business, flying around the world, meeting incredible engineers. So that was really exciting with respect to engineering and the management side of things, learning how to develop software. So not just applying the software, but learn how to really look at agile methodologies, learning new ways of doing things. And then an opportunity arose to come back to Ireland to then take up a role within Johnson and Johnson. And what was really interesting, or what attracted me to the role, was not just to be back in Ireland to do engineering at a high level, but also to apply it within a regulated domain, because I thought that was really the application of some of the things that we'd seen in the automotive industries, the aerospace industries, that in the medical device and the pharmaceutical world, they were a little bit behind. So there's a lot of shared, transfer of knowledge and partnerships. And actually Johnson & Johnson was one of our customers at the time, and that's how we developed that relationship. So I headed up the Manufacturing for the Future program for them, and I was hosted in their campus in Limerick. And it was really exciting campus that they had down there. So it was based on one of their manufacturing facilities, which was Vision Care, making, I think at that time, across the business, it was maybe 4 to 5 billion contact lenses per year. So yeah, I think it was the largest manufacturing site for contact lenses in the world. But also on the site, we had the Automation Centre of Excellence. It was a global Centre of Excellence for Johnson & Johnson, and the European Development Centre for Software for all of the Johnson & Johnson group. So yeah, we were applying a lot of technologies, really world first, as a kind of a global role. And then across the campus of Ireland, we also had Dupuis Synthes that makes all the hips and joints as well. And from that, I spent some time heading up the Manufacturing for the Future program there, a lot of first like applying artificial intelligence, and then and virtual commission and digital twin and things like that. And then I took up a role down at Johnson & Johnson, or at Dupuis Synthes, to head up their Planisware instance, which is their project portfolio management. So I was really interested, and that took me back into the world of the scientific world of knowledge transfer, and it's really kind of got me excited about innovation management. So I was really thinking about what's a scientific way to manage innovation. So I was looking after their portfolio of projects. I think it was multi-billion pounds worth, or euros and dollars worth of investment, and looking at it from a strategic perspective and long-range financial planning down to the project level. So looking at all those different layers and how strategies formed and how you really apply those scientific methods. So yeah, and then takes me to then the next chapter, where I got really involved in innovation management, and I was heading up, I was involved in actually developing some of the standards around innovation management, so ISO 56000 as part of the technical committee that shaped that. And then I got really interested in services, and one of the companies actually that was involved in that kind of disruptive innovation was Origina, and they were looking at what it really truly means to own software, and to look at like what does perpetual licenses really mean, and what's the true IP and value of software, and looking at third-party software maintenance and that model. So I joined them for some time to look at what does that look like from a business innovation perspective. And I also scratched the itch, because I'd been doing a lot of work developing products, developing software, developing solutions, but I never really got into services. So I really wanted to get into the world of services and really round out my profile. So it was a really exciting time to kind of start or to help a startup in Ireland, and really facilitate rapidly growing. And then being in part of that innovation culture, you're kind of rubbing shoulders with Innovate UK and some of the things that they're involved in. And then the opportunity at Digital Catapult came up, which was kind of brought me back full circle, back to Belfast, and back to applying engineering in Northern Ireland, which is where I started. So it was kind of an opportunity to bring it full circle.
Wow, you have certainly had quite the career. Are there any sort of pivotal moments or achievements from your KTP that you feel have contributed to your career progression in particular?
Yeah, so I think there's just some patterns there that are just really good, and again it comes back to the relationships, and I really I think that actually, and I seen this actually in my role at Origina, where they really had their values up on the wall, and they really spoke to their values with respect to, building trust. I think it's really a key foundational piece, in any, program or any KTP, and it doesn't even have to be part of a structured KTP. I think building trust is a really fundamental part of how to start off, and then from that developing good relationships, and then from those relationships opportunities arise, and then you can take those opportunities together, based upon that relationship and trust. I think those things, I think that the way they're formalized in the KTP and kind of backed into the name, really that sets you up for success with respect to learning that pattern, and it's repeated itself time and time again. And I've kind of fortuitously find companies that have those values that I can then link in with, and then I know that I know they work for me, and when I try to apply them, they typically have worked time and time again. So yeah, there's that element. The other aspects of it is that, the approach to continuous professional development. So as I was aware as an engineer, every skill's got a half-life, so the skills that I graduated with have a certain half-life, and you have to go back and retrain and redevelop, and as part of the any industry body, be it the IET, Institute of Engineering and Technology, or the IOA, Institute of Acoustics, or the CMI, the Chartered Management Institute, they all have continuous professional development backed into the way they support the people that are members of their societies. And I think that that's something that was really front and center in the KTP, is to say, look, you really need to invest in you to make sure that you're success for not just you as an associate, but as the business, and you're the change agent for the business, and you want to get those skills, you want to apply those skills, and you want to kind of link that learning to earning cycle. So those are elements I think that I've tried to go back to time and time again, and even the teams that I manage now, I really promote those methodologies. I think they're really time tested.
And just looking at that continued professional development, is there any aspect in particular that you've embraced in order to stay relevant and up to date in the rapidly evolving technology industry?
Yeah, so one of the patterns I like to apply is the circle of competence. So I like to look at opportunities that are at the edge of my competence, so to kind of push me outside my comfort zone. And I would probably talk so far come from the world of modeling and simulation, and that's my warm, happy place. And the things from a technology perspective that kept coming up over the last few years was artificial intelligence, and that's a different approach from a deterministic way of modeling and simulation, and essentially a discrete deterministic answer, and with AI you end up with a statistical approach, a data-based approach, with a probabilistic answer, right? So from some of my background makes me uncomfortable. So I seen this in as emergent technology, and I've seen its utility as well, and that it really can make an impact when used appropriately. So I use that as a mechanism to identify, look, I'm going to have a skills gap here, and not every problem can be solved with my particular skill set. So I actually use that as a trigger to go back and actually do a master's part-time in artificial intelligence. So then I link that to an opportunity within Johnson and Johnson to apply one of the first with respect to an AI system in a quality management system for detection of defects within a medical device setting. So it's really linking the opportunity with that kind of that circle of competency, and identifying somewhere that's at the edge that I could grow and increase my circle of competency. So that's just one of the examples. The other thing that I like to be involved in is the standards. So giving back to the community with respect to shaping what the standards are going forward. And it's a really good mechanism to connect internationally, to think about what are the other thought leadership in that particular domain. So not like we touched on innovation, but also on digital twins. I sit in the technical committee for that as well. And that allows me to connect with all of the other people internationally, thinking about what digital twins are, what are the benefits of digital twins, what's the best approach to digital twins. So really sharing our knowledge and pushing what we think we know and stress testing that, and then that gives you opportunities to identify areas for learning and further development.
Excellent answer. It's really great as well just to hear that there's a full community invested in this, and
yeah,
you're all helping each other just to expand and grow.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So now on Think Future, we like to encourage our listeners to think about their future. Now, whether that's graduates considering career prospects, or business leaders thinking of new innovations of business growth, or academic researchers thinking of how to apply their research to wider society. So, Mark, when we look to the future, particularly in Northern Ireland, where do you see the technology industry heading for the next few years?
Yes, that's a great question, and I think that the thing that I'd like to highlight is some of the involvement from a Digital Catapult perspective and the impact that we hope to achieve in the technology sector, both in Northern Ireland and across the UK and internationally. And one of the things I'd like to highlight is the UK Digital Twin Centre that's going to be based in Northern Ireland, and we're going to have lofty ambitions from an impact perspective that we hope to achieve gross value added to the economy of £61 million, and 36 of that will be based in Northern Ireland with respect to GVA, and the jobs creation. So it shouldn't just be about one associate or one KTP, but the impact with respect to the industries and the engineering activity across Northern Ireland. So we hope to create or be involved in creating 230 jobs, and 104 of those being based in Northern Ireland, and those are going to be based on applying digital twin technologies from data services, the integration, intelligence, both simulation and modeling, artificial intelligence, touching on cyber physical asset management and regulated domains, and then even cybersecurity, and then the modern, really advanced immersive technologies like spatial computing, linking in the likes of the Apple Vision Pro and things of that nature. So there's lots of exciting technologies at our fingertips. I think from a Northern Ireland perspective, it is really the perfect place to innovate, because you really have some beautiful constraints being located in Northern Ireland with respect to the bold ambition and some of the constraints from where we're located. So you've got the regulatory community in the UK, you've got the regulatory community in the EU, and then you've got also the access to some big markets with respect to North America as well. So you've got this kind of perfect petri dish to run your test, to run your experiment, to realise that the connection across that innovation community, and some world-class universities as well, like Queen's University and other different institutions like Ulster, and even Open University as well. So there's lots of world-class associates and students being graduating year on year. Lots of different industries involved in the Northern Ireland economy, that are really internationally relevant. So I think it's really an exciting time to be here in Northern Ireland, really doing exciting, really internationally relevant engineering that I do think has a home here in Northern Ireland, but also has the opportunity to be exported and be internationally relevant. And that's actually one of the other roles one of the other hats that I have. I'm an ambassador for the Digital Twin Consortium. So one of the things that we're involved in is promoting digital twins and the use of digital twins and the benefits that they can bring to the wider economic economic benefit to not just Northern Ireland, but to the UK and internationally as well.
Absolutely. And bearing all of that in mind, how important do you think programs like KTP are for the technology industry?
Yeah, I think they're a fantastic program with respect to change. And I think that as a business owner or someone who's leading a function within a business that really understands that they want or there's a need for change with respect to the adoption of a new technology. And I think it really comes back to not just what we are doing with respect to innovation, but how we're doing innovation. And I think that those aspects can be solved with respect to a KTP, and you can do a really impactful program with a single associate. And I think that it also creates a mechanism for the flexibility within the organization and increases the plasticity within the organization as well. So it's a really good catalyst for change. And I think when they're designed really well and you work and develop those relationships with the universities, there's a whole funnel of talent there that pays dividends. So there's essentially multiple dividends for that one program that can create a whole roadmap or a whole journey or a value stream of innovation within your company. So I think it's a really fantastic opportunity that's relatively low risk for you as a business owner, and also it's a fantastic opportunity for the associate as well. So I think as with all great deals, it's a double-sided benefit.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, what advice would you then give to those businesses in this sector seeking innovation support to grow their business?
Yeah, so I think that my approach would be build the relationships. I think lean into building those relationships with your local universities, and also looking out to innovators like the likes of Innovate UK, who sponsor the KTP program. You can reach out to them. There's Invest NI that are heavily involved in the KTP program. But then there's also the universities and the various different academic departments across the universities. So if you're coming from a background, be it from any of the academic settings in Northern Ireland, you've probably got an existing relationship that you haven't maybe put much energy into over the last few years. Reach out to those departments, reach out to those connections. They're really happy to talk to you. They can really give you an insight into what's the cutting edge innovation that's available in the academic world, and then you can then bring your context of your challenge. I think that's what's really needed for the KTPs is the context of the challenge, because innovation's happening all the time and universities are doing fantastic. I think, like, from an Northern Ireland perspective, we punch well above our weight with respect to the research that we publish and the research that we conduct year on year. So I think from an innovation perspective, we do a really good job. I think from the thing that we can lean into a little bit is the challenges from industry. So those industrial leaders, be it a functional leader or be it from a CTO or CEO, come into the university and say, we've got these real challenges. How do we contextualize that? How do we apply innovation to this to really help me? And then setting up a KTP is relevant. There's KTP offices, several in Northern Ireland alone, that you can lean into and start to develop those proposals. And I think it's a great opportunity for businesses, to really have high caliber, really enthusiastic KTP associates that really are there to make an impact, and then be on a springboard for their career.
Absolutely, and just sort of sticking on the theme of advice there and reflecting back on your own experiences as a KTP associate, what advice would you give to future associates or those just starting out in their KTP project?
Yeah, probably if I was to give a piece of advice, it would be really the time is short. A KTP program is really a whistle-stop tour on many, many topics. So be prepared. There's lots to do. It's really exciting, but really try to prioritize and try to balance that with respect to all the different stakeholders involved, and make sure that you meet all your objectives from your associate perspective, because there's loads of opportunities there to lean into, because it'll pay dividends throughout your career, and even the relationships you'll go back to time and time again. And some of those relationships I developed as part of the KTP I still have, and I really highly value those.
Absolutely, what a great bit of advice. And just specifically, if we were to end on a message to businesses on the support available to them from the likes of Innovate UK and Invest NI, what would that be?
So the one thing I would stress upon is KTP has been delivering value for quite some time now. I think we're approaching the 50th year of the KTP program, and I think that the best evidence is previous behaviour. And I think that from a Northern Ireland perspective, I think the hassle premium of owning a KTP or sponsoring a KPT, there's no better place to do it than Northern Ireland, because you've got such a great support network with respect to the hubs that you have across the KTP. The universities communicate really well together. Invest NI communicate really well with them, and also Innovate UK. And actually, Innovate UK is our funder as well, from a Digital Catapult perspective. So we know from first hand, from working with them, they're really good to work with. They're really consistent. They really have that strategic view. So I think that from a business perspective, again, the hassle premium is low. You've got the support in Northern Ireland. You've got really good universities in your doorstep to develop really innovative approaches to solve your problems. But also that we think, we hope that there'll be another 50 years of the KTP. So if you sponsor a KTP today, it could be the start of a modality that could then help you innovate consistently for the next 50 years. And as a business owner or someone involved in trying to solve problems with technology, that's a great deal. That's a fantastic opportunity. So I would really promote that people really look at some of the challenges that they have today. The whole breadth of Northern Ireland, be it from a sustainability or net zero challenge, or with the various different sector, for example, for maybe agriculture or things that you don't think typically are, that's technology. there's technology that's really relevant to all the different industries, you know, from all across Northern Ireland, that not only can solve the problem with your business in Northern Ireland, but also have a regional impact beyond Northern Ireland as well, across the UK, and even have an impact with respect to, you know, exports and international setting as well. So it really, I think that the challenge that you have today, probably as you listen to this, your top 3 challenges, those could be probably solved with a KTP Associate helping you.
Absolutely, this definitely sounds like something you do not want to miss out on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been great to have your insight, especially as a former associate now working in industry, and just seeing how that connection and growth can really develop. So thank you so much for being on.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine, and we hope to see more KTPs in the future, and we hope to have them in the centre as well.
Absolutely, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.